Well, it's the Cardiff City phone-in. There was a match on the weekend, but unfortunately, I had to go out down the shop with my mate to get a tin of beans on Saturday afternoons. I'm not quite sure how it went. Derek, what was the result on the weekend? Sorry.
To Thomas Bluebirds 2, Tafswell 0.
It's 2-1, wasn't it?
No. We battled really hard, and we were up for the fight. We won 2-0, and then Cardiff City won on the Saturday. The other Bluebirds 3-0 against our lovely neighbours from down the road.
So Derek, I know you were there on the weekend. What's your you've played in a few of these games, obviously. You know, you know what it's like. What was your kind of take as an ex-pro of the way City approached the game, Cardiff?
I thought leading up to the game, the media-wise, it was quite subdued. Probably because of the result on the Tuesday against Watford. And we haven't been pulling up some great trees at all. I just thought it was, I didn't know what to expect when I got to the game. So me and Ava went to the game, and she hasn't been to a Swansea game. And I said to her as we were walking from Grangetown Station, I said, you've been to a lot of Cardiff City games, but the atmosphere here will blow your mind. And I've got to say, watching the game, the fans, from minute one right through to the very end, it's probably the best. I mean, I worked there for 12 years as in the media department, wherever it is. But the atmosphere on Saturday was non-stop. It was unreal. It was like being at a proper football match again. And I think in many ways the whole game was secondary. For the first 45 minutes, it was all about like the fans. Particularly the first game, but the atmosphere was outstanding, and Cardiff City fans, they've shown, if players who play for the club now don't realise the passion of the fans, they would have been blown away with it as well Saturday.
What did Ava make of it?
She was gobsmacked, to be honest, because I looked at her sometimes and she wasn't even watching the game. She was watching the Canton Stand, the Grange End. She was like, so many people, and the singing never stopped. It just kept going and going, and the support, and I mean, she loved it. She absolutely loved it, and I think it opened her eyes, because she's been to a few games there, obviously, but the atmosphere is also, it's almost like tribal to a point, isn't it? It's like
tribal, yeah.
It reminded me of like the film Gladiator, where you have everyone in the stand, just like, kill type of thing. That type of, it was just phenomenal. It was just, they wanted blood, in a 3 points type of blood situation.
Yeah, I'll come back to you, Derek, on City Swansea matches, but just want to bring Al in, because Al hasn't been on the show. He's been traveling the world, He's like a jet setter lifestyle, that's what it's like, when you're Al Worth, that's the kind of life you can lead, yeah. But he's back tonight, and Al, you've lost your voice,
yeah,
for obvious reasons.
It was all a bit excited really on Saturday afternoon, and then it sort of went on into late Saturday afternoon and early evening, and then late Saturday evening. Yesterday I couldn't speak at all, and now today I thought it was getting better. And then before we came on here, my wife said, "You're on that show tonight." Yeah, I've got to. So I think that demonstrates how good it was. I mean, echoing what Derek said, really, it was absolutely fantastic. The best game we go back to the Leicester playoff game, go back to the Chopper game. That for me was Saturday was the best game I've ever seen. They still call it the new stadium. It's the best game I've ever seen in the new stadium in terms of atmosphere. I've always said when we go down to Swansea for an early kickoff and we're bussed in, we're all subdued because no one can have a pint before the game. You get bussed in, corralled in. I think that the opposite was true this time. Swansea came in, forced into their corner. City fans had all been talking about before the game. By the time we'd all got there, the atmosphere, it was already ramped up when we got there. good choice of tunes as well. The stadium, they got that. Everything seemed to be spot on. I know Mickey Villan had said on the City Away Days page, program cover, we got it right. You know, the club are criticised for what we get wrong, but I'm bound to say on Saturday everything seemed to fall into place. And even though it was 0-0 at half time, I think the first half we finished. The momentum was with us without.
Yeah.
And I think Tom Ramison said that subsequently, isn't he? He said at half time the players were really up for it.
Yeah.
And then of course came out and Robinson scored those two in quick succession.
Yeah. And Al, because at the moment, you know, because we're doing this via Zoom, so you can choose an image, and you got the beautiful picture of the Ninian Park gates behind you.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, it brings back memories of that ground, one which Derek obviously has quite big memories of. But also, when you walk through those gates now, you know, into the new stadium, there's all those kind of tributes to people who've passed away and et cetera, et cetera. It's a real emotional kind of thing goes through my mind every time I think of Ninian Park. But, you know, everyone said about the atmosphere at Ninian Park. For you, was it kind of up there with it this weekend? Was it, you know, was that which were kind of, you know, passionate stadium?
Hey, look, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, we've got rose-colored spectacles sometimes with Ninian Park, you know, because it wasn't always a beer pit. You know, of course there were games where it was like that. But you've got to have a performance on the pitch to merit that sort of crowd behind them. You know, if it's rubbish on the pitch, you're not going to get a good atmosphere. I think we had players there since, right? The players who've already played in the derby, so they knew what it was about. Joe Rolls, you know, Callum Robinson, they knew, so you know they could get players wound up for it. In previous years, I think we've always said, and very often said, players don't give a damn. Well, like, to be honest, on Saturday, the opposite was true, wasn't it?
Yeah. Pete, it's unlike you to be on the show and not to be putting the boot in, but you know, you're a happy man this evening, so credit where it's due on a great City performance. And I'll lead you into it. Mr. Roma Rizza.
Oh yeah, look, I'll be fair to him. He got it spot on, and I've given him stick on here. I maintain every bit of stick I've given has been fair. His substitutions haven't been great. His game management hasn't been great. But on Saturday, he did an absolutely superb job. Set us up the right way. I thought the way he went about it with letting Swansea for 20 minutes have the ball and do nothing with it, and then from now we've got a chance to get a breather. We're going to press, and we did. Boy, when we did press, we pressed brilliantly, didn't we? I thought Callum Chambers was magnificent. I thought Robinson obviously was sharp even in the first half, and then when he got his opportunities in the second, he took them brilliantly. I got nothing but praise for those two wingers. I thought they were brilliant. They occupied those two fullbacks, didn't give them a moment's peace in the entire game. I thought it was a terrific performance. I thought Gutas and Darland were excellent, and it was everything for me that Cardiff City should be about: the atmosphere, the occasion, the players responding, the fact that it was a full 100%, 100 mile per hour frenzy type of derby, like the old days, the type of derbies that Del playing back in the day. You know, it was magnificent. And I'll tell you, Derek mentioned to Thomas Bluebirds, I worried about us on Saturday because Cairo won on Friday, and I thought I don't get two results in one weekend. And Cairo beat Ammanford with a load of Swansea fans from Ammanford there, and on Saturday, City went and did the business. It was a brilliant weekend, and all I can say, Steve, is I was very lucky because I'm doing dry January, and if it weren't for the fact I was doing dry January, I would have been with Mr. Worth in the Robin Hood, losing my voice like he lost his on Saturday.
Actually, can I just ask Pete? There, before obviously Saturday, you weren't a Rizza fan, were you?
No, I've had my doubts about him for a while, Derek. Yeah, I've always thought, I always questioned whether he was his game management, his substituting games, and also the fact that we'd lost 12 points from winning positions under the manager, where substitutes had been made, and I felt made us go fall deeper and give away sloppy goals where we could have gone on and won the game. He did the opposite on Saturday. The subs he made actually was putting the foot on the throat to Swansea. So I like, if he keeps doing that, I won't let him stick.
I think if you look at his substitutes on Saturday, they were probably they were made when we were winning.
Yeah.
So I know you're saying in the past. I mean, I met him. We had a '93 union in December, and I met him after the game. And I chatted to him. This is where he'd won 2 or 3. I think we beat Plymouth forever, and I think he eventually went on to win 6 games or something. And everyone was saying, "Give him the job, give him the job," and the club didn't give him the job at the time. And then we had a bit of a downturn again. And then all of a sudden, when on the downturn, he was given the job. I think Cardiff City, over the last few years, it's a thankless job being a manager. Yeah,
I totally agree with that, Dan. Totally agree with that.
The pressure on the quality of players under you, there's a squad of 25, maybe 30, and you could probably pick about 14, and there's no disrespect to the players there, that we're going to give it all for you. And I think with him, it's a thankless task for him. But I think particularly after, he's had such a very tough week as well with his father passing away, and to go on to that, I think and to have that result from the end, and I think that maybe may have been why he'd been sent off as well, because of the emotion of it all.
Yeah, well, we'll come back to that for sure, Derek. I had a few things I was going to ask you. I'm going to ask you this one. Don't be offended, right? Don't hate me. Yeah, Manchester United. Okay, their manager comes out today and says it's the worst Manchester United. Pretty well, it's the version of Man United that there's been. They're kind of all over the place. They're losing games and everything else, and there was a lot of thing with the manager and everything else, and of course Cardiff, lot of criticism about Cardiff. I just mentioned Man United because you play for Man United, and obviously you're a lifelong Manchester United fan. But in terms of a manager taking on, I'm not comparing Cardiff to Man United now, right? But if you take on a club like Cardiff City, the kind of pressure in Wales, where there's only like 3 or 4 different clubs, and there's the rugby thing which everyone talks about all the time. It's a goldfish bowl, isn't it? I just mentioned the Man United thing because that's quite a brave comment for him to come out with today. But as a manager, how and maybe some of the managers you've worked under, do you think is that kind of part of the mindset when you're at Cardiff City, that it's a little bit kind of different, and the managers who do that well?
I think you mentioned Man United there. I think Ruben Amorim is right. I think he didn't want to take the job till the summer, and he was forced into taking it now because he knew the players were there and he couldn't get anyone's in January of any quality. So he's going to be truthful. Regarding Cardiff City, like you say, it is a goldfish bowl, and if you're a Cardiff City manager, particularly in Cardiff and South Wales, the majority of people think we are the best team in the whole of Wales, right? Over the last few seasons, so Wrexham and Swansea have proved that wrong. But if you're a manager of Cardiff City and you are not getting result after result after result, like any fans, they will show their displeasure. But I think with Reza, you look at him and he probably didn't want the job when it was given to him. They probably took him. The last manager. See, we've had so many managers. I can't even remember who the last manager was, Steve. And before that. But then all of a sudden, he's next in line, and he went, "Well, you're a manager. You're interim manager." He has a few good results, and all of a sudden, we get 6 games unbeaten, and it's like, and then the fans are going, "Oh yeah, let's have him." He probably didn't want the managers. Some like people in football don't want to be managers. They like to be number 2, number 3, or a goalkeeping coach, striker coach, whatever. I feel like Reza has been kind of thrown into it, and because we couldn't get anyone else in. So with that in mind, if you said to Omar Reza, the players you have now, yeah, you'll work with them, but like the Man United manager, a lot of those players are not Reza's players.
That's the point I was trying to make really badly, Derek. Sorry about what you said about there being a small amount of players that you'd actually choose if you'd been the person to bring them in. Yeah.
Well, we look at him. I mean, we brought one player in, I think, in January. Selleck. I mean, he looked decent when he came on, but you can't really tell. But he was up for it, And it's a straight. Our club is strange, isn't it? I mean, we don't bring players in for ages. We bring some mediocre players in who are on loan or move on, and don't pay anything for them. Then we go out and spend 3.5 million on somebody that no one knows about. It's just from one extreme to another. Hopefully this boy will be, an outstanding player and not be like something that we've had before where we paid 5 million for that flat-footed lad who can't even remember his name. What was his name?
You have to narrow it down a little bit.
Yeah. What nationality was this one?
The lad who signed for 5 million and he was horrendous. And then he's sort of Danish, maybe.
Cornelius.
Yeah. So we do stuff like out of the blue, or like all of a sudden we spend 3.5 million on someone that no one really knows about. But if he turns out to be brilliant, then great. But like it's our signings and our transfer activity at the club over the last few years has been so hit and miss. I mean, I can't even think about many players, apart from say someone like Callum Chambers you mentioned earlier, who's come in. That's like, wow, what a find! What a player to bring in to make a difference. So
Derek,
I don't know. It's a difficult one, Steve.
Just to ask you this one, Derek, you might not have an answer for me, but after the game, the players were talking about it. I think it was Callum Robbins actually in his post-match, and he said that they sort of slightly reconfigured how they were going about things midway through the first half, and then we seemed to sort of dominate a bit more. Did you notice anything tactically changing?
The first half, I thought both teams were scared of making a mistake. There was no shots on goal. There was no really. Particularly first, I mean, Al mentioned it earlier, towards the end of the first half, we had some free kicks. We started to actually take control of the game by 1%. But up to that, it was pass forward, pass back. There was no one was prepared to take a chance of taking someone on. Even people like Tanner, they wouldn't take someone on. And I think second half, when they came out, I think the first goal, I think he wanted to get on target, to be honest. That could have gone anywhere. Where his second goal was brilliant finish. Because he had time, he was stood up. First goal, he was leaning back, and he kind of just thought, I'll make a connection, try and go to the far post. Bit of a scrappy goal, but his second one after a mistake from them, it was a clinical finish. And I think once we went 2-0 up, they were gone, Swansea, in the head, because the crowd, were at their backs, they were at them, and they were gone. They were really gone then, I think. And Joe Rawls in midfield as well, experience. I thought Bagan did brilliant when he came on.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Really good. I mean, I've always liked Joel Bagan, not because he plays for Ireland, but I always thought he was the type of player. He came on the scene a couple of years ago, and when he first came on the scene, and probably Al will probably know better than me or Pete, is that when he first came on the scene, it was like, oh, look at this young lad. He was vibrant, he was attacking, he was quick, athletic. But over the last 2 years, he's been in and out. Now, you could look at that. We've probably had 25 managers in that time, but he's had no stability. But what I've seen of him when he came on, he looks a player, And hopefully, if he can keep him fit, then O'Dowda would be playing more forward, which is where he's better, to be honest.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on that, Al? On Joel?
Fantastic player. And I agree. It's interesting what Riza said and Ramit said. It's not an 11-man game anymore, so we can change things around. We set up that midfield to counter Swansea's midfield definitely on the weekend with the three that we were playing there. I know Martin Edwards, who me and Pete know really well. For the last 2 years, we've been saying if you stop Matt Grimes playing for Swansea, you stop Swansea. And we've been saying it, okay? And that's exactly when we won 2-0, we stopped Grimes playing. And this time again, we stopped him playing, okay? We smothered him. Some of the challenges Callum Chambers was putting in, the 50-50s, if you watch the game back, as sad people like me have done, if you watch the game back, we win most of the 50-50s. They were crunching tackles, And Bagan, as soon as he came in, he went straight in on one of them. Hang on a minute. And the best testament really to Bagan was that we didn't miss Callum O'Dowda when he went off.
No.
So, and going back though to what Derek was saying about Rizza, look, football. I mean, as a manager, I imagine if you last a season, you're doing well, aren't you? I mean, we've got to look at Rob Edwards at Luton, Russell Martin, Southampton. You know, their flavour of the month for that smart season. And as soon as they lose a couple of games, they're gone. And I think people like Rizza will, you know, you have to know that it's not just at Cardiff City. That's the job he does, isn't it? If he loses a load of games, he's going. Similarly, if he wins a few on the bounce, then all of a sudden, as is now, you know, we all love him. The biggest fear, as I mentioned before we came on air, the season is only now starting because we're in a relegation battle. So we need to use this now as a springboard moving forward and not now think job's done. Because it's not. We could get 6 points this week, as we mentioned before. Millwall tomorrow and then Derby on the weekend. Things are looking a lot better then. If we don't get something out of those games, I mean, if you look at the results from the weekend, if we hadn't beaten the Jacks, we'd have been right in it. So, you know, we've got to keep our feet on the ground a little bit, he says. Lost his voice. He's one of those.
So Pete, with Swansea, it's a funny one with Swansea. How can I put this in a way? I kind of love, I'll put it this way. It's a mad way to put it, right? I love not losing to them as much as I love beating them, because I hate what's happened over the last few years, where they've just come down here, taken the mick, strolled around, and just absolutely taken the mick out of us. And when you saw them before the game, you know, just like strolling in and looking dead cocky, you know, this is our ground, you know, this is our place. I know, I understand it from their point of view, and I know everyone talks. It's better to say this now when we won than when we've lost, actually, you know, because Swansea is kind of like it's never going to be Cardiff, is it? You know, it's never going to be the capital. It's never going to be, you know, the centre of kind of stuff in Wales. You know, it's just never going to be. It's not only, you know, recently changed from Swansea Town, didn't it? Yeah. So it's never going to be that. It's never going to be that club. You know, that's won the FA Cup and all the rest of it, right? But they really love to put one over on us. It's like their whole season is beating Cardiff City. I mean, it was a great win, lovely to beat them, but like Al said, let's get on with staying in the division, then we can build the future, you know.
That's the difference between us and them. It really is. For them, it is, I mean, I think it's kind of holding them back as a club, actually. They've got good players and they could be challenging for the playoffs. But when you hear that their chef is telling the players how many days it is for the Cardiff game, like 2 months in advance of the game. No, I don't think that's and their kit man's giving ridiculous speeches.
He featured on the weekend, didn't he?
Yeah, that to me is like
obsession. The groundsman tell us that though. So I don't see anything wrong with that, because unless the chef's from like Switzerland and he's just trying to get him in, but like, do you know what I mean? But when we were at Cardiff, we were told I'd go out into town. Not in the nights, but I'd go out and say, only 18 days to the, you know, people do it. They do it. It is. That's, and like, you're like, yeah.
We played them every fortnight, no, with the Welsh Cup. We were playing them every fortnight.
Pete, it's only 29 days till we play Cardiff at home.
I know, 21st of February, Derek, I know.
It's another version of
just so you know. I should say it's 12 days till we play in Leicester away. So
yeah, it's one of those. So Steve, seriously, I mean, it's a low psyche in their club, and I was asked to do something on Radio Wales on Friday, and he had a Jack on, and he was a great guy, and but it was about the
and he was a Jack, you said.
And I was
not get his name, like.
Yeah, and he was ending I can't remember it now, Derek, to be honest, but it was about ending the bubble. And he said we can't end the bubble. It's a very, you know, you made some valid points about the history of the troubles that have been going on between the two sets of supporters in the 90s, right? And I made the point that time has moved on. And I said, to a certain vintage of Cardiff fan, Bristol City is a more fierce rivalry. And that game you can travel, you know, and it's just and I said this isn't a Swansea issue really, because you know Swansea didn't want to end the bubble, and because of the fierce rivalry that they down their way towards us. And he said, well, no, we're not obsessed with you, and then named every reason why they were obsessed with us. And it was, and to me, but I won't pretend that it's not the biggest game for me. It is. The Swansea game is always the biggest game for me. I think it is for Al. We're about the same generation now. Only a couple of years older than me. It's a massive match, and I enjoyed the victory, and I celebrated it. I was in the ground until the last fan left, like everybody else. But Al is right. We have got to win against Millwall or get a point at Millwall because it's a tough place to go, and following up with a win against Derby because actually it's no good beating the Swansea and getting a point at their place, getting 4 points from those Derby games if we're not getting points elsewhere and getting up the table. I always want to say one thing, Steve, because I think it's important. There was one massive positive that not many people have discussed, and I'd like Derek's view on this because he played with a lot of boys who were from Cardiff in these games. By the end of that game, Joel Bagan Academy, Rolls Academy, Ashford Academy, Colwell Academy, all got significant minutes on the pitch and all did contribute to our win. I think it's no coincidence that as these boys who come through the system and have been at the club for years are starting to break through into the team, that our record has been better in the derby because those boys know what it's about. And Cian Ashford, Derek, although he plays out wide, reminds me of my great hero and your great mate Carl Dale.
I knew you'd say
just
that.
how his movement and his work rate and his finishing. But it was great to see. That's something that has not been mentioned a lot. And it's great to see those academy boys playing against Swansea in these big games. It shows the club are doing something right with the academy.
You mentioned about the academy boys. Right? Some of them have got in there because some more experienced boys haven't done the business.
Yeah,
and the manager had to look and go, hang on, these experienced lads who are on are probably brought in by different managers. The likes of Ashford has come in and he's had minutes here and there, and all of a sudden he's took his chance. I've got to play him. But I think getting away from I agree with both of you, is that great win on the weekend. But I have to say that's probably the poorest Swansea team I've seen over the last 3 to 4 years in terms of nobody in that team looked like they were a threat to Cardiff at all.
Yeah.
And they've had a poor season as well, even though where they are. And like Al said earlier, and you said, Pete, is that we go and get beat by Millwall tomorrow and say draw against Derby on the weekend, then the momentum is gone. The fans, the fans itself we'll have a great support of Millwall tomorrow, I'm sure. But the players need to take this on now, like that spirit that they had from the weekend, and just take it on, because where we are in the league is just not good enough. And like you could win, we could win the next 2 games, but then you've got to keep going. You've got to be winning at home, drawing away, or wherever it is, because we've got to get out of this relegation is like not zone, but that fight, because you can't. But like 3 or 4 wins, you can. But you're saying about academy players coming in, I think I think that's by luck as well, because they've come in and took their chance. But he's been brave enough, Reza, to keep them in there. And I think fair play to him. And what stood out for me most of all on the weekend was I was sat behind like the dugout. We're quite far up, to be honest. And
where you belong there?
I watched Cardiff City's bench, and you had Tom Ramsett, you had Darren Pearce, you had I can't remember the other chap's name, Richard Shaw. All coming up to the manager, Reza. What he was but a touchline, little bit of information. I watched Swansea's bench, and only the manager was stood there, and maybe one of these assistants came up. One. Yeah. Whereas you talk about a group of 4 or 5 experienced people that I've just mentioned, who will give Reza like maybe do this, and just guide him along. Whereas I felt like the Swansea manager he was dead man walking, just stood on the side. And that was even at 0-0.
Derek, can I just ask you about a comment on there from Steve Thomas? And he's talking about the atmosphere and everything. He starts off by saying about Robbo, giving Robbo a new contract. He was quoted in the press today about he didn't really want to talk about contracts, because might put him off his game. There's 12 or 13 players out of contract. We're in January. Derek? Any, just doesn't it seem to be quite a good time to maybe get some resolution on that, make a few decisions?
Yeah. Where's it coming from though, Steve? Because if Reza is only manager till the end of the season,
yeah, that's a good point.
Then he can't make a decision on that. So who's above him in terms of contract-wise, football mentality-wise, to actually think, does Robinson deserve another year? Does, say, I don't know who else is over a contract, but say you're saying 13 people, normally the manager or a director of football would be going, right, let's get rid of him now in January and get someone in. But it just seems to me that there's a bit of a difference between, say, the owner and then you've got people on the board. Then you've got the man. There's no one. I mean, Reza, to me, I've met him and he's a great chap. I had a good chat with him. But is he that business-minded to actually think, should we give this player a 2-year contract and all that? There does need to be a clear out with Cardiff City. There's no doubt. Because the position we're in now, irrespective of the Swansea result, the position we're in now is that we're not good enough to be challenging or even mid-table in the Championship. So what's Reza going to do about it? You know what? Players will look after themselves, Steve. There's players in that team who are out of contract. And irrespective if they played on Saturday against Swansea and were heroes, if a club comes in for them, they'll go. Because all of a sudden they get a 2 or 3 year contract, depending on their age.
I think Robinson in particular, going back to the Ireland thing, Robinson in particular, he's in the shop window. He's going to want to get in the Ireland squad for the Nations League games and so on. Yeah. There's no wonder he's best thing to get. I read something in the Irish press and they were basically bigging him up, saying, look, he's into double figures. If he's reading that, he's going to be going, well, hang on a minute. I mean, a club that might go down, we just don't know, do we? Budget constraints will come in. If you're Vincent Tan, you probably go, well, I'm not going to offer anyone a contract until I know how much income we've got coming in next year. So it's not for the benefit of us as fans. I just think that he's going to be looking at thinking, well, until you can guarantee that I'm going to have championship income next year, I'm not going to give Evan a contract. That puts us in a hell of a weak position because these players' agents are going to be going, hang on a minute, I'll make sure that you stay in the championship next year, to their players, and they'll be signing elsewhere.
The only players they will give contracts to first will be, like Peter said about the academy players like Ashford. Yeah. Let's tie them down. Whether it's Colwell, whether it's anyone else, these academy boys, right, let's give them a 3-year contract. Probably on crap money. Yeah. But they're going to be happy because the money's been tenfold, whatever. Yeah. But then all of a sudden they're sellable. Like Colwell, sellable. Yeah. Robinson is not sellable. The club are not going to get it. They give him another year's contract, and he has next season. No one's going to buy him.
No, but you couldn't blame him. You couldn't blame him for moving if someone offered him a 2 or 3 year contract, could you?
Not at all, because at his age now, you're looking at stability. You're looking at how old is he now, Robinson?
27, is he?
I thought he's older.
27.
Maybe older than that, is he?
He's 30, I think. He's 30, Steve.
Yeah,
30 this year.
So he's going to be looking at the next 3 years, right? Because when you get to that age,
good point.
As a player, you're looking at stability and thinking, and my best years behind me. Say someone like Callum Robinson, brilliant on the weekend, but he's had a lot of injuries and he's had a few clubs. Someone gives you a 3-year contract, and you think, okay, they've offered that me, I'll go there, and when you get to the last stage of your career as a footballer, you're trying to squeeze the life out of performances and not having to go and get a job, which most players, there's so many players who've dropped out of the game, they got to look for jobs. It's just something you need to be part of.
I think it's really interesting.
I
think it's really interesting what you're saying about the academy kids as well. All those academy kids have all got the kids that they were playing with who haven't been offered professional deals. Straight away, they're thinking, hang on, I've been offered a deal, I'm signing it. Because, they come through the academy. I wouldn't mind betting a lot of these kids know 10, 20 of the players they used to play with who are now in lower than non-league football, some of them.
Someone dropped out.
Yeah. So as a result, we're in a good position, I suppose, with those. If you offer, like Joel Caldwell coming back, for example, give him a 3-year contract. So yeah, I appreciate that. What you're saying is something perhaps a lot of us never think about.
Oh, you're right. I watch half of Ruben Caldwell's old teammates play for Cardiff. Jack Davis, a lot of those boys, and they're really good players at the level Company South, but they're playing Company South. Howell Davis, people like that. But I mean, for me, Robinson, he's got 10 goals, and he hasn't been fit all season. We've messed him around a bit. When we have played him as a striker, he scored goals. Keep playing him as a striker. I think I wouldn't be against giving him an 18-month contract and saying, like, we'll offer you another 18 months and keep taking him to June the following year, because I think he's earned it. Same with Gutas. I would not, but there's not many I would give contracts to because it's what the point Derek's made, because they've proven time and time again, Saturday aside, that they've not been up to the job. And I think I'm really excited by some of these younger players. We've got not just the players from the academy, but I mean, Robertson. I think when Turnbull finally gets fully fit and he's around, I think I'd give Siopis another year as well, I have to say.
Yeah.
I like. I think we haven't seen. I thought Fish played brilliantly in that FA Cup tie, and as he gets a bit better and older, and he'll become a good prospect from Manchester United.
Do you think Siopsis will be next year?
Sorry, Del.
Do you think Siopsis will be at the club next year?
I think he. My instinct would be to say probably not, because he might go home because he's 30, 31 and may go get a contract in Greece.
Yeah.
But I would give him I would offer him another year because I think he's a really important. I don't think the midfield has been the issue, and I haven't thought the midfield's been an issue all season, to be honest. I think
you mentioned. Pete, sorry, you mentioned there about like tying down, and Al mentioned as well about tying down, academy kids and giving them a contract. Like football, even at that level, there is awash with money.
Yeah.
But like Al said, is that if they offer you a 3-year or a 5-year contract on this much, say whatever it is, like the club have got to be careful. Not just Cardiff City, but other clubs in our situation is that. So to Thomas and Cymru South, you look at Welsh Premier. Yeah. There's players on there that have signed from clubs, whether it's North Wales, on something like 600-700 quid a week.
Yeah.
52 weeks a year, which is more than some of the academy boys at a pro club.
Yeah, it's totally true. And do you know? And Derek will back me up. I mean, I love having myself aficionado here. It's brilliant because Derek will back me up. Our clubs, Derek, have both got director of footballs or people in between the managers and the manager at Cardiff does not sign the players. It's Matty Davis, and yet it baffles me that one of the biggest clubs in the Championship has not got somebody to manage the football inside, in between the boardroom level and the board. And you made the point earlier, who we're signing these players. I suspect a lot of it is the head
Pete, you've got
to.
You mentioned it. I'm director of football at Sir Thomas Bluebirds.
Yeah.
But our manager Mark Dunford has done a fantastic job in the 4 years.
Great guy.
Mark is in charge of signing players.
Yeah.
Now, as director of football, mine's slightly different. If I was director of football at a pro club, it would be totally different to what it is at a semi-pro club that we are. Yeah. Is that our manager, he sees the players, he brings them in, he discusses with us about terms of what can we offer them and stuff like that. But I'm just there as a sounding board as well for Mark, and that different things to talk about. But if you're a director of football at Cardiff City, then you've got somebody who is in charge and will say to Reza, "Oh look, you coach the team. You've got your backroom staff. I've got this player. Have a look at him. What do you think? Will he fit into your plans?" If he says no,
we don't sign him.
And say no. Okay, move on to someone else. But Cardiff City haven't got that link between the manager stood on the touchline and the man who owns the club.
And Steve, we've been saying that on this phone in, Steve.
Well, it's on the chat now, isn't it?
And it brings us back to the protest, right? Because I think a lot of those people who were protesting on Saturday, and some of them said it, we're not protesting to get rid of Vincent Tan, the owner.
Although the banner said that.
For him to change the way he runs the club.
Get Tan out is fairly specific.
Yeah, there was, but the guy who was interviewed on ITV was really interesting. Yeah. I thought that he was really interesting. He turned around and said, "I'm not necessarily. This is a guy who organised a protest. I'm not necessarily Tan out. What I am is Tan change, and I want to see a direct. I want to get people in who can help run the football inside of the club, and there's a real mixed view on this, Derek, and I think, and I'll ask Al if he agrees with me. There are people who really vehemently want Tan out for their own personal reasons. There are people like me who think he's wasted millions and millions of his own money and he just needs to run the club properly. That comment, that is Bradbury Jr. Kai was best midfielder there with that comment, and he's right about Joe Rolls, but. Back to the point I was making, he's wasted millions of pounds. We spend more money. It's not about the question of lack of investment. We invest millions and millions each season, and we get these 28, 29, 30-year-old players who are looking, like Derek said, for a big contract, one more big contract from in the championship. And, it doesn't work out. And then we gamble with loan signings like Kanga. And it just hasn't worked for him, and I just think there needs to be a proper existential look at how the football club is run, and how what is the plan going forward.
Can we? Sorry, Pete. Just because you mentioned Al, I wonder if Al wanted to respond to that quickly before we go back to Derek.
I've always said for the last however many years, I think the football club is run badly as a business. I don't think it's run very well at all. I think agents probably see Cardiff City as a soft touch, and they come in and we've signed some awful. If you look at some of the links with some of the agents, with some of the players who've come in over the years, it doesn't look too healthy. There's no football. There are no football people at the club. Above the guys that Derek mentioned earlier, if you go above your Darren Purses, your Richard Shaw's now coming, your Omar Rizza. Right, let's talk about football people above those. They're all relatively inexperienced at doing a coaching, managing job. They are. Okay. Yeah. So let's go above those guys. Right, who are we looking at then? You've got Chew, Mehmet rather, Steve Borley. Laudable what they're doing, and it's very easy. Someone like Steve Borley can come on and say, "Well, I put all the money into the club. What's anyone else done?" I get that, but if you want to run a business well, surely you should get experienced people who know how to run a football club in, and there's no one. So I'm not gonna. It's for another day talking about Vincent Tan and I suppose the way that he runs the club. But it's quite clear to anyone who's a football fan that a football club as a business needs people with experience of running a football club.
Well, Al, I mean, we made the point on the show the other week that it must come to the stage where if you're financing, your own business, if somebody's like financing a business organization who's not being very well run.
Yeah, but he's running it.
Then at some point you have to make some changes.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, he's running
this comment, Steve.
When people are saying he's putting in £3 million a month and this and that, I get that, okay? But we don't have to be ever so grateful because that's of his own making. We're only having to put $3 million in because we're not running it as a profitable business.
Absolutely.
I got shouted down on this a number of occasions. They say, "Well, who else is going to put the money in?" Well, you wouldn't have to put the money in if you balance the books correctly. But there we go. Yeah, it's
sorry, Pete. You wanted to respond quickly.
I wanted to come in. That Michael We've said comment about the director of football, and I get that. Some people are against the director of football model, but surely we're all in favour of a full-time CEO model. Surely we all agree that the CEO running a football club with a turnover of 40+ million a year should be on site every day and running the club and being accountable to the employees rather than running a car warehouse.
Nice cars.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not. And people think this is a massive knock on Ken, but like Ken may do the job. Ken may do the job brilliantly if he was there full time. My point is, someone needs to be there full time, and it's
what you're saying is right. I read that message from Michael as well. A director of football would be nonsensical. Look at Plymouth and what the director of football is it's a name that could be given for everything. It could be anything at all. What my point with you is, you can call it director of football, you could call it wherever you want, basically, you could call it, but there is a gap in there for the clubs that need to get someone in there who's experienced at championship level, maybe dipped into the Premier League level and the league below, that have got experience, that doesn't want to be a manager, but they've got great contacts with players and clubs that they can get them in. They get the scouting system, brilliant. You know, at academy level, our scouting system is absolutely outstanding. You know, and Gavin Chesterfield, and before him, Dave Adams, done a fantastic job. You know, but I'm not talking about a director of football. Somebody in between the coaching staff and Ken Chew and somebody in the middle who is experienced. Doesn't have to be that even a well-known name. It can be somebody who can pick up the 2 or 3 nuggets at a cheap price, or players who will make a difference. Because at the moment, Reza and the coaching staff, who do they speak to? If they speak to Ken, I've met Ken, he's a lovely fella. Whether his knowledge of football is vast, I don't know. So, I mean, there's got to be something that takes the pressure off the manager and the coaching staff that goes, hang on, what are you after? I'm after 2 centre forwards, this age, this, you know, don't talk to me about prices. I'll speak to the board about that. And he goes out and does his job. Yeah. But that surely that's a job that would make it easier for the manager and the people above him.
So what about something like Dave Jones then, Derek? I mean, Dave Jones, he didn't live far away.
I fell out with Dave Jones, to be honest.
I know. Taking your personal.
The answer to that would be no, Steve, straight away, right? Not because I fell out with him. That's not right. The answer would be no. And I know you're looking at somebody who's got a connection with Cardiff City. They don't have to have a connection with Cardiff City. They have to have a connection with the Premier, the Championship, the First Division, maybe non-league. Someone that's been around. Someone like Dave Jones, to me, would be just another job for the boys.
Steve, there's a comment here.
He's had his time in football. He's been out of football for a while now. I know that. Somebody different. They don't have to have played for Cardiff City. They don't have to have any connections with Cardiff City.
Yeah.
I think an excellent shout for the future. But you've just mentioned him, and I haven't spoken to him previously. Gavin Chesterfield. That sort of person, if you had a director with someone like Chesterfield alongside them, I mean, their football brains are on another level. You know, it's fantastic, and what they've got going on.
I think Gavin is suited to what he's doing now. Maybe in a few years' time, but I'm talking about somebody who has not necessarily a manager. He could be a manager of the top 3 leagues. You know, not foreign, just somebody who is well respected and knows young players, older players. We get a tune out. Say an older, he's on his way out. He's 30, but he'll do a job till the end of the season, and that's the position you want. Say to Reza, I'm after a midfielder. Siopsis is going. I can get him in. So
Steve, can I come in on that comment that came from? Sorry, Dal. Can I come in on that comment that Al has put on? He was happy at 7 o'clock when we started this. And I get that. And I get his thing. I think what we're saying is Saturday encapsulated what this club could be if there was a right strategy put in place. We're not trying to be negative for the sake of being negative. We're just saying
we're all happy. You just don't look at it.
It's just gleaming. It's just giving us a glimpse of the potential once again of this football club, that when we're 21st in the table, 27,000 turn up, create a rip-roaring atmosphere in the local derby, we go out and hammer our local rivals, and what we're saying is it just shows us what, when everything goes right, what this football club can be and how great it could be. And I think Derek's an example of that from 1993, isn't he? You know, that's that to me is what we're trying to say. We're not trying to be negative for the sake of being negative. We're just saying that's where we need to be all the time. And then test match on Saturday that was trying to make that point as well. So I think great win on Saturday. Like a couple more wins, we'll be up in mid-table, and we can all be glass half full all the time again. But there are still problems with the club, and they need to be resolved. Otherwise, we'll always be in the bottom half of the Championship, where this football club does not deserve to be when you see the size of the club and the potential of the club.
Okay. That's the beauty of this. The beauty of shows like this award-winning show that we're on.
I can't remember what year that was now.
Well, it will be soon. Is that we came on starting talking about how brilliant it was the weekend, the fans and all that. But the reality is, like Al said earlier, is that we need to get something tomorrow. And if we get a point tomorrow at Millwall and 3 points against Derby on the weekend, next Monday's show is the same. It's like, what a turnaround. 7 points in a week. But going forward, it's the buzz and all that. But the one thing you'll never change about the club is, whether it's next week or the week after, is the support of the fans, particularly on Saturday, the way they were, it's there. They just need something to cheer about. And it doesn't have to be just Swansea we're playing. If we're playing Derby next weekend, the fans will turn up, especially if we get a great result tomorrow night. It'll be packed out again next Saturday, and the atmosphere will just be as good. And I just think the club, Reza, the players, the backroom staff, they all understand that. The fans and everyone and obviously people I know who work there, like Damon Sale, Roger Gibbons, Gary Bell, Joelo, everyone who works there know all that. But then where does it go after that? Do people realise how big this club is?
Oh, I thought Saturday was a brilliant example of it. I agree. I thought it was one of the best atmospheres I've ever experienced at any game, and I include Indian Park there. In those, it was terrific. And just so I'm positive, I do think we will get at least 4 points this week, and I do think we will get to. I think next week against Derby could be another good. Could be another day where we beat a team quite comfortably, because I think they're a bit of a mess at the minute.
Yeah.
So I'm just really confident, and we've got to be really confident going into this week. And I never normally am, Steve.
No, but it's nice because it's nice to have you when you've got smiling face and we're all buzzing.
If people are just looking for positivity, well, here we go. Right, Millwall, they haven't won in 5. Okay, Derby County have lost their last 5, and we haven't lost in 6. So if we want positivity, there's your positivity. But if you think I'm going to sit there and go to be
today, Al, was it?
Sorry?
Quiet day in the solicitors today, then, to get all them stuff?
I was saying earlier, I watched I was doing Pete Bradbury's job, actually. He was in the council chamber. Yeah. So I'm after Steve's job, I am.
Monday's a quiet day in Al Milmerham's.
I was down County Hall. I went to work today.
Yeah. So I was still trying to get my voice back. So what I'm saying is, I won't sit here though and say because of those stats, right? City are going to win, are going to get 6 points, because damn well we'll go tomorrow night, and I'll be accused now of being it's Cardiff City that we're talking about.
Yeah, and talking about this Cardiff City we're talking about, we got about 5 or 6 minutes, and without embarrassing Derek, it's so good, Derek, to have you on the show tonight. And I have to say it because it's been on my mind for it's just ridiculous how somebody like BBC Radio Wales aren't biting your arm off to get you on there to talk about professional football. I absolutely do not know. Right, just put that one on the table. Just want to ask you a question about the protest before the game, just briefly, because we're into the last kind of few minutes. I'm just wondering if you can kind of imagine it. When you were at Cardiff City, if there was that kind of thing going on just before the game. Just briefly, what are your kind of thoughts on that? Would it be on the players' minds? What do you think?
The players would have known about it, probably more so afterwards when they've seen footage. But I don't think. I mean, you look at the people who were on that march, and I've seen some of the faces, and these have been fans for like 50 odd years, some of them, and it's got to a stage where they feel that's the only way they can make their their voice heard, and you know, if it was a peaceful protest, you can't say anything about that. That's, you know, but you talk about passionate fans there who probably all came into the ground anyway. You know, they've done their bit, and I know quite a few of them who were on the match, and you can't really blame them in some ways, because the way the club has been run over the last, I don't know, 6-7 years or anything, it's disappointing. And you think you'd rather have a match than nothing. You know, you don't want any silly stuff on Facebook or Instagram and stuff that's, you know, out of order. But if people want a match, it's their right. You know, it's their right to march, and as long as it's peaceful, and as long as they get the point across that they want to, hopefully they can. But at the end of the day, they're just passionate. They just want the club. It doesn't matter who's playing for the club.
Yeah,
you know, they want the club to be better than it is.
And conversely, right? How great would it have been to be on that pitch, Derek, in front of that crowd on the weekend?
Well, when I was watching it with Ava, I was thinking, you know, I got tingles up my back, to be honest, because it reminded me of, you know, the years when I played in that game, and luckily the seats are all stuck down now that the Swansea fans couldn't pick up the wooden seats and chuck them across the stand and stuff. But
the
atmosphere,
family enclosure, Derek, when they threw it.
Yeah, you know, there's a few of my friends in there. That was, you know, but I think, yeah, it was the best atmosphere I've been to a game in a long time. Even when I was working there, I just go into games. It just never stopped. It never stopped with the drums, the songs, and the new songs, and it was brilliant. It was just, and
was Ava singing along?
I think she was just surprised by it. I think, you know, in fact, Terry Boyle was sat 2 seats from us, and I explained who he was.
Yeah.
She was like, "What, you played for both Cardiff and Swansea?" I went, "Yeah." She went, "Oh, there's quite a few of you in there." So I didn't sign for them because
that's heartbreaking.
They didn't forward me; they were skint. So,
Steve, I think we should mention
for the BBC plug. Thank you.
No, I absolutely, totally, genuinely mean that.
Well, if I was Welsh, maybe.
You don't have to be Welsh. They've got some people on there who can barely speak English anyway.
Steve, I think we got 2 minutes left. We should mention the fans. The most moving moment of the game, chant-wise. And like I say, I've criticised him as a football manager, but as what he did on Saturday I've lost my father, and I went to a council meeting the day before my father died, and that was difficult. What Reza did is astounding. To go to work under that pressure environment, when you're in that much grief, under that much pressure, both strain mentally, I thought that was remarkable. And I thought that Cardiff fans get a lot of stick for a lot of things, but I thought the compassion they showed him when we were 2-0 up to sing "This One's for Your Dad," whether you're pro Reza being a manager of this club long term or not, it showed the humanity that Cardiff fans don't get enough credit for very often. I thought that was brilliant, and I think we should discuss that a little bit.
There were 2 moments. There was that one when he obviously acknowledged it and then touched his heart, and then, you know, kind of thanked the fans. And then when Callum came off after his 2 goals, you know, he kissed him on the shoulder. You know, it's kind of quite nice. One thing we haven't mentioned, we're out of time, to be honest, but I think we all agree, do we? Yes, no, I don't know how much time we got. Referee, I thought the referee had a fairly decent game, so he held it together quite well. Quite a difficult game to referee. And generally booked more jacks than ours, so, you know, hats off.
You should have sent Liam Cullen off.
Yeah, Cullen started that.
Cullen should have been sent off for throwing. He was on a yellow card, and he
provoked that.
It was fantastic.
And also me and Al, we both watched the just because of probably Sados, really. We watched the YouTube coverage from the Swansea perspective this morning, right? And there was the bit where the player Franco, right, comes over and he absolutely 1000% deliberately barged Omariza, right? Okay, if that isn't ungentlemanly conduct and worthy of a book, and I don't know, and how he can get sent off, I don't know. And then the commentator said, "Oh, that's what we should have been doing all game, you know, winding him up." And that's the kind of gamesmanship and sportsmanship you get from Swansea City Town. There we are, isn't it? Right, so looking forward to Millwall and Derby on the weekend. Can we just whiz around quickly on what a great game Derek Reno had as a right back? He had a really good game, yeah?
Sorry, I didn't hear you then. Sorry.
Just saying, as a right back, Reno, what a good game he had on the weekend.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent. I mean, NG has always been a stalwart in there, but he's been kept out of the team, isn't he? So
he's undroppable at the moment, I think. And he's one I'd certainly give a contract to, I think.
So the whole back four were outstanding.
Yeah. And Joel Bagan, that goal saving, he put his body on the line. I love Joel Bagan. So just quickly whizzing around for predictions, if that's all right. Derek, we're going one of your favourite away trips, Millwall tomorrow, and then another derby on the weekend.
A prediction for tomorrow night and the weekend?
Yeah.
Millwall, I think they'll go for it. They won't sit back because they need to win at home, which might play into our hands. So I'm going to go 2-1 to us, Gary Bell style. And on the weekend, I think we'll beat Derby 1-0.
Okay, 6 points. Lovely, Al.
Tomorrow night I'll be happy with a draw. So 1-1. I think we'll stuff Derby 3-0.
Okay, Pete.
I think tomorrow will be a draw as well. I think it could be 0-0. We don't ever win at Millwall, but we don't get beat there a lot either. I agree with Al. I think we're gonna have to wipe the floor with Derby. I think any team with Curtis Nelson at centre half deserves to get hammered.
Fair enough. I met him down the pub once, but that's another story. Right. But great show. And wasn't it marvellous to be looking forward to that show all day today, really. It was just great after that.
It's so much better when we've won, Steve, isn't it?
It's lovely, isn't it? I'd have been taking the day off if we'd lost. But great to have Derek on. Derek, thanks very much. Brilliant getting you on. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Good luck to Thomas, Derek, for the rest of the season.